Junior Mining Weekly, StockPulse.com production, where our focus is on the individual equities markets within the commodities sector. Here to break down the action, as always, Allan Berry of the Allan Berry Reports. Okay, Al, gold remains strong, news flow picking up. Juniors seem to be shaking the COVID close down and waking up from hibernation. Several drill programs resuming and being announced. How's the vibe from Allan Berry's view?
Well, I do feel winds of change are starting to happen here in the last 10 days or so. One thing that's happened that kind of added to my encouragement was the news flow is picking up for the juniors in the exploration front. That's an encouraging sign. We're also seeing financings on again. We've seen a bunch of big ones of late, and I think that that'll start to filter down to the smaller exploration companies as well. And it looks like the juniors are finally rolling out of their slumber. And, I think we want to be looking for those quality stories that we pick up on the show. And, especially what I'm trying to do with the show picks that I make, Rob, I see a lot of news, but I only pick, a handful or half a dozen companies, because those are the ones that I think are best. They have the best news and stock chart combination that I think they can perform well. This is a little bit different than sort of the shows that we do on the drilling or on the news briefs. This is more of a stock picking show. And, that's what I think investors want to be these days, is stock pickers and trying to find quality, not just chasing after the latest stock that's moving, but trying to do it in an intelligent way. And I'm going to sort of wrap up on the final company. We'll kind of segue into our final topic of the show. So might as well get started with some stock picks.
Absolutely. First one up here, Tudor Gold initiates diamond drilling at their flagship Treaty Creek project. What drew you to this one?
Tudor Gold has been a pick of mine for a few years on and off, and the reason it's on and off is because they are a focused company on the Golden Triangle, and so they have seasonality to deal with. Like, they're only drilling maybe let's say 5 or 6 months of the year, and so you really have to pick your spots with those that are hampered by that seasonality. But right now, their yearly high is $1.07 and their low is 28 cents. They're trading at 64 cents, so they're pretty much smack dab in the middle of that range. And they announced that they're starting drilling on their Treaty Creek project. Treaty Creek is a very exciting project. It's up in a good area of the Golden Triangle. It's beside some big mines. And they've had a lot of good stuff coming from there, and I think that they're going to continue to have that trend. And so another factor to consider is this is a Walter Storm company. Walter Storm it was heavily involved as one of the early investors in Osisko. When Osisko was just a penny stock, and then rode it on to the success it was as a takeover, and then another, and then they created 3 or 4 companies off of that, one company. So Walter is a very wealthy individual. This company never has troubles with money, and Tudor's definitely, it's that time of the season to be looking at Tudor again.
Okay, next one up here, Galway Metals, drilling in New Brunswick, some nice intersects from the Richard Zone.
Again, GWM is kind of the thing that I'm looking for the show. The stock is they don't have a tremendous amount of stock out. What is it? 128 million. They have a solid-looking gold chart or solid-looking stock chart. The range is 45 on the high to 27 on the low. It's currently trading at 39. Again, another one that's right sort of in the middle, but has been improving as of late since March was down at the low, and since then it's been firming up, coming off that 27-cent low, traded as high as 40.5. The news looked really good. I like what I saw, 13 meters of 4.6 grams. These are step out holes. They're hitting high grade. They've got a lot of gold on that project, and these guys have sort of had success in the past. So it's one that I really like. I think that they're going to continue to perform well. I like the stock chart. I like the project. I like where they are in the trading range, and they've got more news to come. So keep an eye on GWM.
Okay, next one up, San Marco intercepts shallow gold at the Buck property. Haven't talked about them before. What's appealing here, Al?
San Marco is a company that has a pretty good following, and the reason they have that following is Richard Wark he was one of the instrumental people in Arizona mining. Arizona mining was bought out a couple of years ago for 1.3 billion, and so he's sort of one of those marquee kind of people, and he's heavily involved with this one. I mean, they just arranged a $690,000 financing, and part of his group took 50%, and the Augusta Group or Augusta Investments is beneficially owned by Richard Wark. So good group involved on the financing, never have to really worry about money, tight share structure, only 32 million shares out. They've got good projects. They just announced that they drilled 91 meters of 0.8 of a gram gold equivalent. It's got some size potential there. It's got good distribution of silver and gold in the system, and good people involved there. They usually don't hang their hats in places that aren't worth looking at. So SMN is definitely one I like. That tight share structure, good people involved, good projects, good following, and this is the kind of company that one day you'll wake up and it'll be a lot higher priced.
Okay, next one up here, GoGold. We've talked about them quite a bit here. Some assay results from 15 holes here at the Los Ricos South project.
GoGold, yeah, GoGold. I like the name actually. They put out news, and it sold off a little bit, but then a couple of days after they put out the news, the stock started to move again. Now this one has 222 million shares out, Rob, and you know that's not that's not really what I like to see, but it's important to note that this company has got very good projects and they're advanced. So it's not like they're starting the exploration story on a new project and just and then having a lot of stock up. They're well on their way with this project. Their last news release, I mean, I was pretty impressed. 3.2 meters of over 1,000, almost 1,100 grams of silver. So you're looking at more than a kilo, slightly more than a kilo of silver per ton. Most companies announce things in grams per ton. This company can announce them in kilos per ton, and they're in, big silver mining countries. So, and they've got a nice little mix of gold in there as well. So it's a gold silver play in Mexico. When I always recommend people, when you have this amount of stock out, you want to trade intelligently with these things. Try to buy them on the low. If they get super excited, maybe sell into it a little bit, and so that you can buy on the next low, because it's 222 million. Nothing's going straight up from there. You got a lot of stock to move, but I like where this company is heading with their projects, and I like that they keep on hitting some of this high-grade silver. Not easy to find good high-grade silver stories out there.
Okay, next one up here, Eagle Plains Resources to commence diamond drilling in the Vulcan Silver Lead Zinc project in southeastern BC. And I spoke to Tim Termunde during the midweek show. I suspect I know why you like this one, Al. Break down what your thoughts are.
Well, I always pay attention when prospect generators keep 100% of their project and want to drill it themselves. The reason is that one of my mentors is Andre Goumand, and he was the guy who was instrumental he ran Virginia, and Virginia was bought out by Osisko, and before they were bought out twice actually. They were bought out once by Goldcorp for their Eleanor mine, and then they packaged up all their other projects, put them into a new company for the shareholders, had $40 million in cash, and then they got bought out by Osisko. But the original Virginia Gold, which was bought out by Goldcorp for the Eleanor discovery, Andre was a prospect generator, just like Eagle Plains. They saw something in their Eleanor project that made them want to keep 100%. They kept 100%. The rest is history. Now it's a mine, that sort of stuff. Eagle Plains, so now Eagle Plains, which has been a long-time prospect generator. I mean, I've been following Tim and his companies for 25 years or so. But for now, for them to keep 100% of it, I love it when I see prospect generators want to keep 100% of a project and drill it themselves. That's exactly what they just put news out on, and definitely one that I think could transform the company. So keep an eye on Eagle Plains. Good group, not trading, it's kind of a sleepy stock, 15 cents on the high, 6.5 cents on the low, trading at 15 right now, so it's trading at its high. I don't think that's a coincidence with what's happening with the price of gold. And this is one of the juniors that's starting to come out of their slumber. So, yeah, I like EPL a lot, and that they kept that 100% of this one project.
Okay, another new one to the program here, some gold in Quebec. Genesis Metals reports resumption of phase 1 drilling. What rings your bell here?
GIS is the symbol. I'm kind of a geek about data when it comes to geology, and that's the thing for geological information system. And so they got that symbol. I kind of like that. They started drilling again. And they put out a really good exploration update that I think investors that are interested in GIS should go look at that news release that just went out. They're one of the companies that fall into my category, 43 million shares out, trading at about, close at the other day on Friday at 33.5 cents. But yeah, go to that news release. They talk about the suspension of mineral exploration by Quebec being lifted after the COVID, or due to the COVID coronavirus issue. They were shut down, but now they're open back up for business. They're going to do 2,500 meters. They had done 2,000 meters. Portion of the core was logged and sampled, so that'll go in. They're really focusing on improving their definition and testing for expansion opportunities of their high-grade domains inside the overall deposit. That's what I really love. A lot of these companies nowadays, these juniors, they like to do these resource calculations on wide envelopes of low grade with some high grade inside of it. The reality is most of that material is never going to be mined. If anything, it's going to be made because of the high grade, the continuity of the high grade. And that's what these guys are focusing on, and that's what I like. I'm not a big fan of these companies that, come out with resource calculations early in their exploration when they haven't even defined, got to the end limits of the deposit. How are you going to do a resource calculation when you don't even understand how big it is? Secondly, once you do that, you put a cap on the project, because everybody, say it's 1 million ounces. That's what everybody locks into their head. Now, what if you add another 2 million ounces? So what? In most people's mind, it's 1 million ounces. Why? That's a main reason why I don't like juniors being in a hurry to rush to resources. But geologists, I don't know what school of exploration they went to, but some of them like to be able to walk around and say, well, it's 1 million ounces of gold. Yeah, but only 200,000 of it is ever going to be mined. And of that 200,000, it's widespread apart. It doesn't have continuity. It doesn't matter if you have 1 million ounces of material that's never going to be mined, even though you can hang a resource on it. So, I like the way these guys are going about it. Focus on the high-grade domains. See if you can get enough of that to hang together, and then you might have a potential mine. That's what I'm interested in, not being able to promote people because you say you've got 1 million ounces. I've seen that story too many times. So I like the way these guys run things. I like what they're focused on. I like this fact that they don't have a lot of stock out. So Genesis definitely falls into kind of company that I like to pick.
Okay, last one up here, another new one. Portofino identifies 3 significant conductors in the geophysical program in the South Otter, Red Lake, Ontario. What was appealing here, Al?
Yeah, I picked this one, Rob, for a couple of reasons. One, I like what I see in the work that they're doing, but recently I've been talking on the shows about, investors have to sharpen their exploration stock potential for what they understand about exploration. So this one gives you a little bit of an insight into the things that I look for when I'm looking at a junior. And they have 46 million shares out, so not a lot of stock out. I think that's often where I often start, because I kind of want to look at, well, what's the market value of the company? 46 million shares out, trading at a nickel. They got a $2.3 million valuation. So it's a tiny micro valuation. But then you want to look at, okay, so then they ran some geophysics. And if you look at the geophysics, they've got some nice targets developing there. It's in a good area, Red Lake, Ontario. They're doing good work on the project. And if you read the news release, which is why I want people to go check it out, they're very good at explaining what they're doing. I find so many juniors have a struggle with trying to explain from a technical perspective to an audience of geologists, money managers, institutions, and regular investors. They all seem to be very focused on the geologists, their geologist buddies. They want to impress them, and often that makes it seem like this is too complicated. I don't like too complicated. I like people to be able to break things down simply so that I can understand it and others can understand it, because at the end of the day, other geologists aren't going to drive the valuation of the stock. Regular investors are the ones who are going to drive the valuation of the stock. So whether they're small investors or big investors, that's what companies should be writing their news releases for, so that investors can do their homework and like I said, sharpen their exploration pencils. So some of the things that I look for: share structure, valuation, quality of the project, quality of the work they're doing, quality of the way that they describe it, where they are, so that they aren't up in some remote area that's going to cause them to blow up their share structure and limit the upside of the stock. And so these are the key characteristics of juniors that I like to look for. Now, when you look at a company like this, they just finished their geophysics, they're not even drilling yet. When you find something like this with a micro valuation, you might be early, but you're going to be early at a dirt cheap price, and then you want to look for when things get exciting. For these guys, the next big thing will be drilling. But right now they only have a $2 million valuation, and they know what they're doing, they communicate well, they cover the key characteristics that I like to look for. And so therefore, this is a dirt cheap micro valuation company that I think investors are going to have to start looking at, because as more people get into the business, you're going to find that when they do put out good news, often the stocks are going to pop dramatically, and you're going to have to wait until they cool down. And by the time they cool down, you might not be able to get them that cheap. But if they have those characteristics, you fill your portfolio up with a bunch of companies with those good characteristics, and I'm sure you're going to do well in the coming in the market that's coming for us.
Okay, Al, before I let you go here, you made mention of sharpen your exploration pencils. Would you put a little more color to that? This environment seems pretty healthy to make money if you can pick the right stock. So why don't you elaborate a little more about sharpening that pencil?
Well, there's a reason why I want people to sharpen their pencils, and I gave that example of Portofino. I was involved in the markets since '93. I saw the 2001 to 2011 gold bull market. I even became somewhat of a famous because of it. I was on BNN a lot between 2007 and about 2012. And fortunes were made during that time frame. And I can't stress this enough, that I think that that's what we're coming into. And I think we're going to see fortunes made again. But fortunes are going to be made in those with sharp pencils, though not buying the latest gold stock because it put out news, stock popped up, you jump on it, then it softens up, you get depressed, you sell it as it's time to buy it actually again, and then it pops up again, and you get buzzed, you get whipsawed by this over and over and over. Try to buy before, or at least before the market is really understanding the value of something. I think my company, Advanced Gold, falls into that category of not the market not understanding what they're seeing. What we put out in our second to last news release, I put out a big comprehensive news release with maps and everything. And what I stressed on was there's a large geophysical anomaly that is 3.2 kilometers long. We went to the extreme, to the southern end of it, which is at the extreme end of the geophysical anomaly, because it was closest to surface there and easiest to hit. And we hit it, and we hit base metals, we hit even high-grade base metals, and some copper, gold, silver, zinc, but that was in the disseminated thin sections, thin layers of disseminated sulfides. That's not really the guts of the system. It's the end of the system. And even in the end of the system, we're getting these kind of grades. But because they weren't these spectacular sulfide grades, the stock's sitting at 7 cents with 35 million shares out. So let's say a little over 2.5, 3 million on a fully diluted basis. Yet me and my partner, or the chairman of the company, Brad Newell, we own about 30% of the stock. So here it is again, my checklist. I'm building my company based on my checklist. Not much stock out, good insider ownership, not a project that can be explored without blowing the share structure. It's in a low-cost area. The geology is phenomenal in the area. This is one of the best, 10% of the silver ever produced worldwide comes from the state of Zacatecas, where our projects are located. We've done drilling, we've done geophysics, we're narrowing in on the target. And the next round of drilling is really meant to be the sort of what will be exciting for our company, because we're going to go after the guts of the geophysical system, which is at the north end of it, 3,200 meters from where we did our initial tagging of that system. It has a hinge, and then it dips straight down, and that anomaly continues to depth beyond the limits of the geophysical system that we use. So that looks like where the guts are. But nobody's pricing us for that. And that's what I think investors want to be looking for, is those kind of opportunities. Look at this Portofino that I picked up last. It's a sleepy little company, 46 million shares out. They just did geophysics. It's in a good area. It's elephant country. They've now identified some good targets. Those are the kind of things that I think investors want to sharpen their pencil and be able to pick up before the crowd gets here, because in reality, there's not a lot of great exploration projects out there. How many we cover, Rob, on the shows? 25 or so, 30? Yet there's 2,000 juniors. Most of them are, have bloated broken share structures, and are lifestyle companies. So really our peers are maybe 100, 150 companies. But those are the companies that we focus on, investors should focus on, and should pay attention to the geological work that's going on, because that's where you're going to find your hidden gems.
Well, as a follow-up here, Al, you touched on a key point that I'd like to expand on. I think the onus of telling your story is on you. Marketing is certainly important and necessary, but messaging has to be the top of that list. At StockPulse on the media side, the goal was to deliver good news regardless of any membership or support, so to be a true neutral party. So, investors deserve objective news. What advice do you offer up CEOs to tell their stories better And if they do that, it'll also help build their following. So guide them there.
Okay, let's start with the news releases. You got to get. You're not talking to other geologists. You're talking to investors that invest in exploration and development. Speak to them. Your websites suck. I just looked at a company today that I really love their project. I go to their website and it looks like it's 1996 all over again. That's you can't do that anymore. Everybody's online now, and in fact, the investors you want to talk to, they're online. Those are the ones you've got to get your act together for. Corporate presentations, again, all the corporate presentations, the news, the websites, and their news releases, they're all focused on trying to impress their geologist friends. That's not your audience. Speak. One of the key things you learn about writing or telling stories is speak to your audience. Don't speak to the audience that you hope for. Speak to the audience that's important to you, and it's not geologists. Okay, so that's your on-hands digital marketing tools that every company should be better at. But then it comes down to, well, then you want to look at beyond those tools that you use to tell your story. To broaden your audience, there's two things that really work in digital marketing: email and video. Video, for example, on my videos alone, I've done a lot of analysis of this. For every viewer that I get, they watch almost 40% of the video. You're never so 40% of my let's say average 10-minute videos, that's 4 minutes. You're usually not going to get people's attention for 4 minutes reading something. Okay? Why do I emphasize email so much? Because it's like it's personal. When I send an email to my buddy, my buddies always open the emails and read them. And so you want to be speaking to your email audience like they're a friend of yours, and you're just passing them on some good information that you want them to click on the link and go check that out. So those are the key tools, and you better get that stuff right first. Now, another tool that you can use is social websites. I see the click-through on those is very problematic. You're looking at less than 1%. It's really horrible kind of click-through. So, yes, that can work if you're Gary Vaynerchuk or Chris Brogan, people like that, because they've got phenomenal audiences and those small numbers work. But the average junior is going to have maybe 200 people on their social media website, and if so 2 people click through. Get your emails right. Get some digital marketing. Like we offer people all the time, they don't even pick up their damn phones. We offer them a chance to come on and talk about their news in brief. I'm sorry to say this, but even companies that I consider for hidden treasures don't even pick up their phones. This is a disgusting practice. Companies need to get better at it, and they will or they'll perish. So those are the key things. And there's a reason why I hang my hat at StockPulse, Rob, and I've got involved with you. It's because it's the kind of platform that does everything that I need as an investor and as an analyst, and those are the same things that average investors need. So I think you're going to see a lot of traffic growth on StockPulse in the future. And I think that these companies, it's incumbent on them to tell their stories better. And there's no better way to tell your story than getting on the horn and then getting it distributed online through our platform. They need to get bottom line, they need to get their acts together and, not run these things like bloated share structure lifestyle companies. There's too much of that. Too many old people in this industry stuck in their old ways. too many of them are stuck in those social or those lifestyle company wannabe ways, and we need to flush the system and get better people in there. And I try to eat my own cooking. I'm on shows with you as an analyst, which helps bring exposure to my company. I'm always telling my story, no matter what the market's doing. I'm telling my story. That's my job. I try to tell the story well in our news releases so that everybody can understand it. I try to tell the story well on our website and our corporate presentations. And then I try to get the company out there on my email lists and doing videos of like this, where I get to use my company as an example. And it's not just a I'm just how would I? So a lot of people in my position would just do that because they have the opportunity. I'm doing that because it is an actual checklist of what I'm recommending. So that's why I'm building the company like that. I'm building my company, Advanced Gold, AAX, the way I think companies should be run. And so there you go. If they ain't doing it like Advance, well, they need to sharpen their pencils and get to work.
That's it for this week's show. If you're a fan of the information, please subscribe to the channel and share the broadcast. If you haven't, please have a look at the StockPulse.com platform, where we're tracking the pulse of the financial equities markets, providing investors with the tools, filters, features, and analysis to navigate these markets and assist in their investment decision. Back next week with more equity news and commentary, hopefully keep you ahead of these volatile markets.